Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Austin Peterson, Republican Senate candidate here in the state of Missouri. We've got a very exciting announcement tonight, but before I get to that, I just want to say thank you all so very much for your support of my Senate campaign. Things are going incredibly well, and our team has all of you to thank for that. Thank you so much for your donations, and I definitely want to give a big shout out to the people who have signed up for recurring donations to our campaign every month. So here's a quick update, just so you know. We've had an incredible couple of weeks. Things are getting very exciting out here in Missouri. Last week, I officially filed to run for office at the Secretary of State's office, so I will be on the ballot in the primary that will be on August 7th. Missouri is an open primary state, so anyone who is of voting age and registered to vote properly will be able to pull a Republican ballot and vote for me, hopefully, this August 7th. Also, while I was in Jefferson City registering to vote, I was testifying in favor of a House bill called HB 1936. Now, this is a House bill that would essentially remove gun-free zones from Missouri code. So I'd like to ask all of my fellow Missourians to please call your state reps and urge them to support this bill. We've also had a lot of media in the last week. Some of you may have seen I was on the Glenn Beck show talking about a conservative libertarian alliance going forward. Really exciting stuff, and I always love getting to chat with Glenn Beck. And I was also on the Mark Cox and Tony Colombo show, 97.1 in St. Louis. Those guys are awesome, and I really appreciate their support as well. And the McGraw show, that's a pretty big show out there in the St. Louis market, 5:50 a.m. KTRS in St. Louis. Thank you so much. Shout out to Heather Coyle for setting that up out there in St. Louis. And of course, I spoke at Higginsville High School. Got to speak to young people about the future of our country. They had a lot of really good questions, which I think I answered pretty well. And I love being able to speak to young people about the future problems they're going to face, like the big, huge national debt that they're inheriting. $1 million a minute we are spending. We're blowing open deficits. I think it's going to be $1 trillion deficit this year, and we're $20 trillion in debt. So that was a really good conversation that I was able to have with the young people of Higginsville High School. We also had several Lincoln Day events, St. Charles County, Pettis County, Lawrence County, and in Lawrence County, actually, it was kind of fun because the person who was supposed to show up to sing the national anthem didn't show up. So I hopped up on stage and I got to sing the national anthem, which, of course, you know, if you're at a Republican event and you sing the national anthem, then you must win at least 1 or 2 votes from people out there for your patriotism, right? At least I hope. And also another big one, we got an endorsement from Cassie Dillon. She's the founder of The Lone Conservative and has quite a big following on Twitter. Bigger than mine, anyway. So thank you so much, Cassie Dillon, for all of your help and support. So, and now to the big announcement. Of course, as you've probably seen from the title of this video, we are doing another AR-15 raffle. And I want to give a big shout out and a special thank you to Drew White, who's a big supporter of ours, and he's a member of Team Liberty from Ohio. Drew donated the rifle to the campaign. Drew, thank you so very much for your generous donation. Now, before I go into the specifics of the contest, I just want to say a few things. Now, I'm not going to mince word here, folks. Our Second Amendment rights are in danger here in Missouri and nationwide, and we should definitely be concerned. Now, I understand that in the wake of this media firestorm, I feel deep sympathy for the victims of these tragedies. But like I always say, there's no tragedy, no matter how great, that justifies taking away the right of innocent people to defend themselves. Let me say that one more time. There is no tragedy, no matter how great, that justifies taking away rights from innocent people. Now, before I forget, if you haven't heard of him, somebody I've spoken about before, Nick Freitas. He's a delegate from Virginia running for the U.S. Senate. Really good guy, former Green Beret, just like my dad was, tough guy. And I've talked about him before in some of my live streams, but he did a video defending the Second Amendment on the floor of the House of Delegates in Virginia that you really should watch. And I hope that one of my friends, a member of Team Liberty, will drop that link in the live stream below so people can watch that after you're done with this live stream, of course. So thank you so much for tuning in. Now, this has obviously been a catalyst. The tragedy in Parkland, Florida was the catalyst for this. But I think it's important for us to have a real, reasonable discussion on how to keep our kids safe. I think this is a really good opportunity for us to talk about the issues in a reasonable manner. And as a matter of fact, last night I was at St. Lawrence University in Canton, New York, and there were a lot of college Democrats who showed up. They actually put up a big protest sign, and it said, "Mr. Peterson, do you value AR-15s over students' lives?" And of course, I think that it's a little bit of a false dichotomy there, but in a sense, you're trying to compare apples to apples. It's because I care about the lives of children that I think private citizens ought to be allowed to defend themselves with reasonable weaponry. I mean, so we had a really good discussion, and the Democrats actually behaved themselves, and I was having a little bit of a back and forth with the head of the college Democrats who showed up to the event last night. And we were talking about the fact that the Supreme Court had ruled, or has ruled, that police do not have a constitutional obligation to protect people. So I asked the head of the college Democrats, if the police are not constitutionally obligated to protect us civilians, then who is? And he responded, "We are. We are. Absolutely." And we actually had a really good exchange, and that's really why we're doing this. This is why, not just because it's good for fundraising or for publicity, but because this is a good way for us to inject ourselves into the national dialogue and to have an across the aisle, across the party line discussion about what solutions are really going to work in the constitutional framework that we are operating in. Because a lot of Democrats are going out there calling for full-blown gun control, and a lot of Republicans are talking about just taking away the guns a little bit. But here's the solution. Before we get into the problem with the Republican and Democrat dialogue today, and I just want to say thank you so much for St. Lawrence University, Yale, for inviting me out last night, and thank you to the college Democrats for coming and having a good, reasonable discussion about free speech and the Second Amendment. But instead of taking away guns from innocent people, let's talk about some of these options that I think are going to serve us best. I think eliminating gun-free zones is a good idea because nearly all of these mass casualties incidents are occurring in gun-free zones. Criminals know that they won't be met with an armed response in these gun-free zones. I think we need to get rid of them, and that's why I testified in favor of that bill, HB 1936, here in Missouri. Also, I think we ought to allow teachers to defend themselves, and even the head of the college Democrats, again, last night, seemed to agree with that, because when the police did not go in, there was the gym teacher who was throwing himself in front of the students to protect them. Don't you think that the teachers care a little bit more, or maybe they care the most about defending the students in their school? I think they do. And also, we got to acknowledge that there were multiple failures of law enforcement in preventing this tragedy. Had the government entities simply followed their own policies and protocols, and this might not have happened. And school resource officer, the only armed person on campus, didn't enter the building. Backup officers that responded didn't enter the building. The Broward County Sheriff's Office said it received 23 calls related to Cruz or his brother in the past decade, and they failed to act. The FBI was even made aware of the killer, and they didn't follow up. So I always like to ask, why is it when government fails, people blame freedom? Now, I think I've been pretty clear on what I think is the best way for us to combat criminals trying to do harm, and that is citizens exercising their Second Amendment rights to defend themselves. So I'm very excited to be able to give away an AR-15 to one lucky winner. Now, last time I tried to do this on Facebook, it didn't go so well, right? Facebook took our video down, and I was banned temporarily until we got pushback. It was a 30-day ban until it was picked up by various news outlets like Fox News, Washington Post, and others. And eventually, I wrote an open letter to Mark Zuckerberg when we found out that the chief operating officer at the time, Sheryl Sandberg, had donated the maximum contribution to my opponent, Claire McCaskill, who is a huge gun grabber. And when I called them out on this, they rescinded the ban. So I won't be showing you the firearm in this video just to try and avoid getting into any trouble, but I will show you this artist representation. This is an artist sketch of an AR-15. So hopefully there aren't too many people who are being triggered by this, but yes, this is an artist sketch of an AR-15. This is not an actual AR-15, just so you know. Just a picture of an AR-15. So hopefully that will get us out of trouble in case the algorithms, quote unquote, try and pick this up. So let's try this again. This is the specs of the gun. It's another Palmetto State Armory, just like the last one. It's chambered in .556 or can alternatively fire 223 as well. As far as we know, it's never been fired. And if you want to enter, you can go to austinpeterson.com/AR15_raffle. That's austinpeterson.com/AR15_raffle. And a lot of people are going to probably push back and say, Austin, why do you need an AR-15? Well, I like to say, well, in case you're ever under assault, right? They say, why do you need an assault rifle? In case you're ever under assault. But, it's not really an assault rifle. It's just a semi-automatic rifle. And I'll promise you this, I will, just like I did last time, do due diligence on the person who wins this gun. There's no purchase required. We will follow all state and federal laws. But if you want to win, all you got to do is click on the link in the description and sign our petition to defend the Second Amendment. I need you guys to stand with me on the front lines to defend the Second Amendment. And this is a scary time for gun owners. And my opponent, Claire McCaskill, has been absolutely terrible on guns. She claims to be a moderate, but we all know that she's a full-blown liberal, and she's all too willing to take away our Second Amendment rights. We read the other day that Michael Bloomberg and the gun control lobby are going to be spending $25 million this election cycle propping up anti-gun candidates. And you know that they're going to be helping Claire. But you know what? Claire isn't the only one that we have to worry about on this issue. Josh Hawley isn't standing up for your rights either. And he's running on the Republican ticket, challenging me in the primary for this nomination. This week, Josh Hawley supported the use of an executive order to ban bump stocks, and he didn't stop there. He said that he was open to, quote, other suggestions as well, which means that to Josh Hawley, all of your gun rights are up for negotiation. He's not even putting up a fight. I mean, he's accepted the far-left narrative that we need more gun control now, and he's already caving on a number of critical issues. That's a problem. As your senator from Missouri, I will never waver on your right to defend yourself and your family, and that is what sets me apart from my opponents, both Democrat and Republican. We need a candidate to hold the line on our Second Amendment, and I'm ready to go to Washington, D.C. to defeat any terrible gun control legislation. There is no other candidate who's running who's going to defend your right to protect yourself and your family like I will. Claire McCaskill and Josh Hawley are trying to take away your guns, and here I am giving one away. So please sign my petition to defend the Second Amendment. You may just win an AR-15, and don't forget to tell your friends and family, okay? Don't be selfish. I appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning into the live stream, and have a great night.